Sometimes the hardest truth is the one we refuse to hear because it threatens to shatter the illusions we've clung to for so long. Remember those sweet promises whispered into your ear since childhood? They told you love would save you, that it would be pure, redemptive, and unconditional, a magical force so powerful it could heal every crack you've ever hidden, even those deep within your soul. From fairy tales, songs, movies, and endless stories, you absorbed this unspoken vow one day the right person would arrive and make everything okay. You believed it, not because you were weak or naive, far from it. You believed because you were never handed the tools to see through the veil of that beautiful illusion. But what if the promise of love saving you was never meant to be fulfilled? What if the love you've chased your entire life isn't salvation at all, but a carefully crafted strategy? And what if nature, that ancient philosopher, the ultimate realist, you were taught to fear or dismiss, saw all this coming long before you did? Nature doesn't write fairy tales. It wields a scalpel. It slices through the mask, myths, and emotional safety nets we build around our fragile egos. When nature looks at love, at women, at the way we connect, it sees something raw, unpolished, and real. And yet most of us, especially men, aren't ready to hear this. Here's the brutal truth. You don't love her. You love the reflection of who you wish you were, the version of her that validates your worth, that reassures you that you're enough. But validation is not love. What you call love might just be an intricate illusion, a carefully maintained emotional cage that keeps you obedient to a comforting narrative. Women in a world that denied them power and visibility learned to survive differently. They weren't given swords, so they mastered silence. They weren't handed control, so they perfected influence, not out of malice or manipulation, but necessity. Forced to operate from the shadows, while men basked in the light, they became masters of subtlety. And here lies one of the greatest misunderstandings modern men face, mistaking strategy for softness, adaptability for innocence. You see her tenderness and mistake it for purity. You believe her love is unconditional, but it's not. It's power refined, rehearsed, and executed with precision. While you spill your emotions and call it vulnerability, she's quietly scanning your every word for leverage. While you dream of soulmates, she's weighing the cost of closeness, balancing need against control, desire against influence, not out of cruelty, but instinct. Because she learned long ago that the one who understands the game but never speaks of it holds the real power. And what about you? You were raised to idealize her, to put her on a pedestal so high that your blindness becomes an excuse. You don't see her strategy because you don't want to. You prefer the dream, the mustard, the healer, the good girl. But what if those roles are just masks? Masks she wears because they work. I'm not here to tear women down. I'm here to shatter the stories men tell themselves about women. As long as you believe she's morally superior by nature, as long as you believe her affection is pure and without motive, you will continue surrendering your agency for emotional security. And she will accept that power not because she despises you, but because the system taught her to use it. You're not being loved. You're being handled. And here's the scariest part: you like it that way. You crave the comfort, the worship, the emotional anesthesia that lets you avoid facing yourself. Because the moment you stop needing her to save you, you'll have to confront what's really behind that need. And that not heartbreak is what truly terrifies you. Fear wears many masks, and one of its favorite disguises is romantic devotion. You think you're loving her purely. You think you're giving yourself freely. But look deeper. What you're offering isn't love, it's bargaining. You're silently saying, if I give you my heart, will you fix the parts of me I'm too afraid to face? You're not seeking a partner. You're seeking a solution. And while you pour out your soul searching for comfort, she's listening. Not to your words, to your needs. Not because she's cruel, but because every vulnerability you reveal draws a map of your emotional pressure points. And she learns them fast, not to hurt you, but to embed herself where she becomes indispensable. Nature saw this. It saw that what we call love is often a subtle contest for emotional territory. Who controls the rhythm of closeness? Who withholds first? Who gives in last? These aren't questions of affection, they're questions of power. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The one who needs less controls more. You give her your time, your attention, even your identity. You call that honesty. She gives you just enough to keep you chasing. She calls that connection. But it's not connection, it's choreography. We live in a culture where women are taught to influence without leading, and men are taught to submit while thinking they're winning. It's not her fault. It's not yours. It's centuries of conditioning men ruling the outside world, women mastering the inside one. And now in modern love, you walk into the trap with a smile. She doesn't need to argue. She only needs to suggest. She doesn't demand, she desires. And in that quiet power, she shapes you, your choices, your very sense of self without ever raising her voice. That's not manipulation. That's mastery. You call her mysterious because you don't understand her. You don't understand her because you've never questioned your own myths. You still think love is about unity. She knows it's about leverage. The truth we struggle to face isn't about her. It's about what she reflected back to us. When she pulls away, it's not just her absence that haunts you. It's the void she leaves behind the mirror that once showed you who you wanted to be, now shattered, leaving only silence and uncomfortable truth. As nature would put it, you never truly loved her. What you loved was the image she helped you build of yourself. She was the stage upon which you performed your worth, your value, your identity. And now that stage is gone. What remains is raw reality, unfiltered and unavoidable. Here's the painful part. She didn't deceive you. She merely stopped playing the role you assigned to her. You didn't see her. You saw your idea of her, a carefully scripted character crafted from your desires and fears. When she no longer fit that role, when she refused to perform, you branded her cold, distant, even cruel. But maybe the real betrayal was yours, the betrayal of loving a fantasy and demanding she live inside it. Nature's judgment isn't cast on women. Instead, it condemns the men who refuse to grow beyond childish illusions. Men who prefer muses over mirrors, who beg for angels instead of facing the messy, complex reality of human beings with all their brilliance, flaws, and contradictions. Are you ready to stop blaming her, to stop hiding behind excuses? Then maybe you're ready to look inward, not with shame or guilt, but with clear-eyed honesty. And from this clarity, something radical begins, not the end of love, but its transformation. You were taught that love is the ultimate virtue, that to love selflessly marks the noblest man. But what if this so-called selflessness is just a mask for something else? Emotional dependency. Beneath all the grand romantic gestures and poetic vows lies a quiet, creeping fear. If I don't give everything, she won't stay. So you give more. You compromise more. You erase parts of yourself, molding your identity into what you believe she wants. Not out of love, but out of fear of being alone. This isn't nobility, it's submission dressed up as romance. While you think you're breadily bearing your soul, she feels something very different. What she experiences is control, not through force or loud commands, but through your willingness to orbit her, desperate for her approval. Because here's the truth nature hinted at. One few men want to hear love born from need is never balanced. She may never demand your obedience, but you offer it freely. She may not ask you to change, but you do, reshaping yourself to fit her image. Why? Because you've convinced yourself her acceptance is your salvation. But she never agreed to be your savior. She was simply being herself. And you took that authentic self and turned it into a reflection of your worth. When that reflection cracks, it's not just loss, you feel its collapse. Because you weren't protecting love. You were protecting a story. A story that whispered, if she loves me, I am whole. If she stays, I matter. But stories aren't truth. When reality intrudes, you call it betrayal. Nature calls it awakening. The real lie isn't that she has power, it's that you never saw it. You called her gentle, but she was watchful. You called her nurturing, but she was strategic. You thought she surrendered, but she was always choosing. Choosing because she understood something you didn't. The one who understands the game holds the key. Slowly the illusion cracks. You recall her smiles, but behind them was a calculation. You remember how she anticipated your smallest emotional shifts before you spoke them. You believed in her intuition, and she had it. But for her, intuition is survival, a tool to stay one step ahead in a world that gave her no power to confront, only power to shape. This isn't about blame, it's about truth. We live in a world where love is sold as mutual surrender, but played out as mutual leverage. Where vulnerability is praised as a virtue, but traded like currency. The moment you realize this, you face a choice: grow up or break down. Most choose the latter. They retreat into myths, seeking another muse, another partner for the emotional performance. They say, this time will be different. But it won't, because the roles haven't changed, only the actors. Until you stop needing her to play a part, you'll never meet the real person behind the mask. But what happens when the mask finally falls? When you stop chasing roles and start seeing reality for what it is, then you begin to notice something always there, not manipulation or malice, but instinct. A woman who, aware of her lack of institutional power, has mastered relational power instead. Not because she wants to control you, but because this is the only power she's ever been allowed to have. So ask yourself this, not whether she's ready to love you, but if you are ready to see her without illusions. Because only then can you truly see yourself. Only then does love stop being a story and start becoming a revolution. If these words opened your eyes, if they stirred a discomfort that felt like truth, then share, like, and subscribe, not for entertainment, but because you're ready to leave illusions behind and face reality as it is. If this message touched you even a little, help it reach someone else who needs to hear it.